Communication, I think, is something a lot of people take for granted. Sharing your thoughts with somebody, expressing your emotions, or simply just making somebody laugh. When you don't have those basic skills, it can be very hard to interact with the world and interact with people in general. My name's Joe, and for as long as I can remember, I've struggled with a speech impediment. When somebody would ask me a question or call on me to speak, I would just completely freeze up. I wouldn't be able to say anything. My hands would start to sweat, I'd have racing thoughts, and I'd just feel stupid, really.
According to early results from roughly 2,400 scientists who
I think I first noticed that there was something wrong with my speech when I was probably about 5 years old. I was in reception at the time, and I have memories of the class teacher taking a register. I would just not be able to say yes miss or to say my own name, which the other kids found very funny, but to me it was just awful. It was so embarrassing as a kid to have to go through that, and it would just cause so much anxiety and fear. In my head, I was somebody who was very talkative and somebody who had lots of ideas. But when you can't communicate those ideas or express yourself to somebody, it can have a massive impact on your mental health. The one person I felt like I could talk to about my problems was my mum.
I first noticed something wasn't quite right with Joe's speech when he was about 2.5. We were going for a walk and he was trying to ask me something, and he was really struggling to get his words out. So I went to see the health visitor, and they said that they would monitor his speech. So they looked at it probably every 6 months. And when he went to school, he was referred to the speech therapist.
My speech got really bad when I was probably about 16 years old. I was doing my GCSEs at the time, and on top of that stress, my parents got divorced. This was a very challenging time for me, and because I had so much going on in my head, I couldn't speak properly or I couldn't communicate. Instead of going talking to people, I would isolate myself in my bedroom and shut myself off from the world.
With the pressures of work, having to do presentations, be encouraged to put your hand up, speak out loud, girls, peer pressure, you know, the football team, so many things at secondary school. And I know that it did frustrate him and it upset him on occasion, but I think generally people were unaware of how much his disfluency really impacted on him throughout his teenage years.
I think one of the memories that sticks out to me the most is going to my dad's house and having all these questions for him, having so much that I wanted to say and to get off my chest, but then not being able to communicate that with him because of my speech. I'd just be sat there, and every time I'd try and go to speak, my vocal cords would kind of lock up and my mouth would go tense. So I suffered in silence and chose to repress my emotions. I think that night ignited something inside me and drove me to actually do something about my speech. I'd been to speech therapy, yeah, but it hadn't really worked for me, and I think at this point I was considering just any alternative. So I got out my laptop and I started to type in ways to eliminate stuttering. I found loads and loads of YouTube videos and websites which claimed they had an idea of how to control stuttering but not really eliminate it. This was until I found the website Live Stutter Free. They have bold claims on this website saying that they could eliminate stuttering in just 3 days, which at the time I was like, that can't be true, it's not possible. It kind of goes against everything that I've been taught in speech therapy, and it just didn't seem like a plausible option to me. But the more research I did on the course and the more that I started to look into it, the more it seemed like it was actually real and it could actually be an option for me to improve my speech. This course was called ЭТАЛОN and was invented by a man in Russia named Roman Снежко. Roman had been teaching this course for about 15 years but only spoke Russian, so only taught it to Russian students. However, for the past 2 years, Anna had been working with Roman, an ex-speech and language pathologist who is now translating this course into English.
You know, stuttering is a simple speech underdevelopment due to a lack of a speaker's experience working with his own speech muscles. It can occur at any age after a person stops speaking.
I certainly was a bit sceptical because other online courses that he'd done in the past didn't really work. Standard speech therapy I felt hadn't worked for him, and he felt like it hadn't worked. He still, you know, seemed to be quite disfluent.
I think the thing that convinced me that this course could actually work for me was seeing a guy's testimonial video who also did the course. He was from the UK like me, and he was called Roger.
Learning how to speak where there's constant pressure, but pressure to me, I normally thrive off pressure. It's like I could make my job so much easier by just one second.
Roger's stutter was actually much worse than mine, and in just 3 days he went from somebody who could barely say his own name to somebody who was so confident talking on the phone to strangers.
Dr. Johnston's office, this is Sherry. How may I help you?
Hi there, Sherry. This is Roger.
Roger?
Yeah, how are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Excellent. I'm just staying with a family in Canyon Lake at the moment, and I'll be here for 7 days before I head to New Zealand for a year. And I was just wondering if I could come in just for a checkup on my teeth to see if everything's okay.
I think seeing Roger's transformation was inspiring to me, and I thought, if he can do it, then, well, why can't I? As well as being excited, I was very nervous about starting the course. I was wondering if it was actually going to work for me and if it was going to have long-lasting results. The course was taught on Skype, so I would Skype Anna and Roman and communicate with them online, even though we were in different countries. Anna was in America, Roman was in Russia, and I was in the UK. I thought it was amazing how we could collaborate together, even though we were miles apart. From the minute I sat down and started speaking to Anna and Roman, I knew there was something special about this course. The way they spoke about speech and stuttering was unlike anything I'd heard before.
So, Roman is asking you to name just the vowel sounds one after another for a minute.
O, U, E, A, O, U, E, A.
They didn't consider stuttering to be something that was a condition or a disorder or something that was caused by the brain, but more an underdeveloped skill and something which you could reshape and improve upon. I had to do a variety of speaking exercises to identify which speaking mistakes I was making and how to correct them. By the end of the first day, my speech was a lot better than it was to start off with. I still had 2 days to go, but I was already on track for eliminating my stutter completely.
I expect you to show me how to speak correctly.
On the second day, it was a case of building upon what I'd learned from the first day and trying to reinforce a new habit of speaking without all these interruptions and blocks and unconscious behaviours in my speech. think I thought the course was going to be harder than it was. It was actually very easy to pick up what they were saying and to understand it too. By the end of the second day, I felt like I'd just gained a superpower. It was such a simple thing for so many people, yet for me this was the biggest thing in my life. Just being able to say what's on my mind and being able to communicate without struggling. The third day consisted of an assessment where I would do the same speech exercises that I did on the first day, and this time I would be graded on how much I had progressed. It was amazing to see how much difference just 3 days made on my speech.
Assimilate, assimilation, access, assistance, assistant, assigns.
Honestly, it was just an amazing experience to have. After finishing the course, I would just go around and speak to as many people as I could. I would put myself in situations which I would never have dreamed of doing before. I felt like I could just be more open with people, I could put across my personality better, I could make people laugh more, I could just communicate in general in ways which I could never do in the past. I wouldn't say that it changed me as a person, but just allowed me to be the person that I always was in my head.
I think many people wouldn't even know that he'd had any disfluency in the past.
I think if you are somebody who's self-aware, you are a determined person and you have the ability to work hard, then you can also live stutter-free.